How is everybody doing today? Welcome to today's lesson, direct speech punctuation. In direct speech, various punctuation marks are used to separate the quoted words from the rest of the text. This allows the reader to follow what's going on, and here are some basic rules. Number 1. When quoting the exact words of a speaker, inverted commas should be used. In other words, if you're just repeating what the previous speaker said, then you should use inverted commas, right? We all know that. We've known that since our early grades. Let's take a look at some examples. He never agrees with anyone, said Tom. What did Tom say? What were the words that came out of Tom's mouth? He never agrees with anyone. That's why we're only going to use inverted commas on this part of the sentence. Jane said they're so happy because they won the match. What's her name? Asked John. Sarah said, open the door. Okay? All of these are examples. We have a question, we have an exclamation, we have a statement. All of these are examples of things that a person can say in different forms of sentences. There should be a comma, full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark at the end of a piece of speech. This is placed inside the closing inverted comma or commas. For example, Jennifer inquired, has anyone seen my bag? So what do I have inside the quotation marks? Inside the inverted commas, I have a question mark. It goes inside because it's still part of what Jennifer inquired about. It's still part of her question. The punctuation is part of her question. I have a question mark inside the inverted comma because the sentence is a question, right? Ahmed exclaimed, you wake up at 12 p.m. every day? You must be kidding. You wake up at 12 p.m. every day? You must be kidding. So in the first part, he's asking. That's why we have a question. In the second part, he's exclaiming. He thinks it's strange. He has a strong emotion. That's why we have an exclamation mark. They're both what Ahmed said, so they both go inside the quotation marks, right? Sit down and do your work, the mother warned her mischievous child. Forgive me, there's a typo here. There's a blank. The mother warned her mischievous child, sit down and do your work. So we have an exclamation mark here. Why? Because the mother is saying it sternly or she's scolding her child, etc. So there's an exclamation mark inside the inverted commas to show exclamation or command. Okay? So we have a question, we have a command, and then let's move on to see what's coming next. You're right, he said. We're late, said Ahmed. The comma inside the inverted commas here is to introduce or separate between the speaker and what he said. Okay? So if you take a look at... Okay, let's read this sentence again. You're right, he said. You're right. What did he say? The words that came out of his mouth were, you're right. But I can't put a full stop if my whole sentence, even mine, hasn't finished. So what we do is that we say, you're right, comma, he said. We're late, comma, said Ahmed. Except, for example, if we have, let's say, like this one, sit down and do your work, we have an exclamation mark, right? Has anyone seen my bag? We have a question mark. What is her name? We have a question mark. Sarah said, open the door. The only case where I can put a full stop is when I say, if I flip the sentence and I say, he said, you're right, then it's the end of my sentence and it's the end of what the person said. So you put a full stop. So, for example, I had an example here. Look, the champion admitted, I didn't expect to win. The champion admitted, I didn't expect to win. I put a full stop here. But if I flip the sentence, I didn't expect to win. The champion admitted, it would have been a comma after win. Okay? So you have to be very, very careful with your punctuation. And whenever it's said Tom, asked John, or he said, or said Ahmed, it's always a small letter. Said, inquired, asked, shouted, screamed. All of these are in small letter, except, of course, if I say Ahmed said, then Ahmed is a proper noun, right? But if I say said Ahmed, then said is in small letter. Okay? Now you have to be very careful with the punctuation. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Okay? You can pause the video. Read this first page, make sure you understood everything, and then we can move on to the next part. All right, now let's get back. The champion admitted, I did not expect to win. We have a full stop here because it's the end of the sentence and there is nothing more to add. Notice that if direct speech comes after the information about who is speaking, you should use a comma. Sorry, I'm going to have to repeat that. I was interrupted. Notice that if direct speech comes after the information about who is speaking, you should use a comma to introduce the piece of speech placed before the first inverted comma. For example, Steve replied, comma, no problem, full stop. Okay, James exclaimed, comma, what a beautiful garden. They replied, comma, we're not going anywhere. And you have to notice that look at the capitalization. No problem. What a beautiful garden. We're not going anywhere. Why? Because it's the beginning of what Steve said. It's the beginning of what James said. It's the beginning of their sentence. It's in capital as well. So my sentence is in capital. Steve, James, they're all capitalized. And their sentences are also capitalized. Okay, Yuri, do you understand that? Remember now, this remember is very important because we use it in writing all the time. Remember, whenever a different speaker starts speaking, you should begin a new line or a new paragraph. And I didn't say whenever a new speaker, because the dialogue can be me and, for example, my sister. Whenever I speak, a new line. Whenever my sister speaks, a new line. Whenever I speak, if I speak again, a new line. Whenever my sister speaks, it's a new line. Okay, so it's not new. Whenever a different person starts speaking, then you start a new line. Okay, people used to live in caves, said Mary. Times were different back then, replied John. You're right, Mary agreed. I'd love to try living in a cave, John said. So here it's only Mary and John, but whenever a different person starts speaking, we start a new line. Take a look at the punctuation. People used to live in caves starts with a capital letter. There's a comma after caves, said is in small letter, and then there's a full stop after Mary, right? Times were different back then, comma, close the quotation marks, replied is in small letter, okay? Okay, number 3, if the direct speech is broken up or interrupted by information about who is speaking, you need a comma or a question mark or an exclamation mark to end the first piece of speech. The first part, okay, and a full stop or a question mark or an exclamation mark before the second piece. And all of it goes inside the inverted comma, right? Okay, you're right, he said. It feels strange. Thinking back, she said, he didn't expect to win. No, he cried, you can't leave now, okay? So whenever we're dealing with interruption with direct speech, we have to understand what the person said originally. So here, what did the person say? He said in the first example, you're right, it feels strange. So it's you're right, full stop, it feels strange. You're right, full stop, it feels strange. This is the original sentence, right? The original thing that was said. But like I said, if you have he said or she said after, you can't put a full stop when there's still something to say. So what do I do with the full stop that was in my original sentence, right? You're right, comma, close quotation, he is in small letter, he said. You see this full stop? This full stop indicates that my original sentence was, you're right, full stop, it feels strange. Thinking back, she said, he didn't expect to win. Now, what was the thing that she said when she was standing right in front of you? Thinking back, he didn't expect to win. How would you punctuate that? Thinking back, comma, he didn't expect to win. Now, look at the difference in punctuation. Thinking back, comma. So what comes after you're right is a comma, and what comes after thinking back is a comma, right? The difference is here it's a full stop, here it's a comma. Why is it a comma after she said? Because it's still the middle of her sentence. She's still talking. That's why I do not have a capital letter here. He didn't expect to win. You see this he? Why is it in small letter? Even in the beginning of a quotation. Because it's still the middle of her sentence. All right, Yuri, do you understand what I'm saying? No, he cried. You can't leave now. No. Exclamation, he cried. Why did I put a full stop after cried? Because no is a full sentence. An exclamation mark is just like a question mark. It's just like a full stop. What comes after it is a capital letter. That's why I put a full stop here, and I started with a capital letter here. Then I have my full stops here. I have another full stop here, and this is my exclamation mark in this case. Okay, year 8, quickly go through it again. Make sure you understand everything. It's a lot easier than you think. Now remember to use words instead of said to make your writing more descriptive. Whispered, murmured, blurted, mumbled, shrieked, squealed, roared, etc., etc. Okay, year 8, if anybody has a question, then send it my way. Thank you so much.